Picture this. You and your friends are trekking through the snowy Ural Mountains. You're experienced hikers, the air is crisp, the scenery is incredible. But then, what starts as an adventure turns into a total nightmare. That's what we're diving into today.
The Dyatlov Pass Incident.
One of the most baffling unsolved mysteries of, the 20th century.
You're absolutely.
It's 1959. 9 experienced Soviet hikers are on an expedition in the Ural Mountains. And it ends tragically. And we just don't know why. We've got excerpts from articles, research, all about the Dyatlov Pass Incident.
It's a case that has captivated and puzzled people for decades.
Trust me, this is a story full of twists, strange details, and unanswered questions. Get ready, because what happened on that mountain is going to send chills down your spine.
What makes this case so compelling is that these weren't, novice hikers who wandered into danger unprepared. This was a group of seasoned adventurers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov.
Okay.
They were well-equipped and familiar with the challenges of winter expeditions.
So they knew what they were doing. But something went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And to make it even creepier, the mountain where this all happened is called Kolatsiak, which, translates to Dead Mountain in the Mansi language.
Yeah.
Kind of eerie foreshadowing, don't you think?
It certainly adds to the unsettling nature of the story. And the name Dead Mountain isn't the only unsettling detail. The expedition was supposed to end on February 12th, 1959.
Okay.
When the hikers didn't return and radio contact went silent, a search party was launched. What they found just defied explanation.
Let's talk about that discovery. This wasn't just a case of hikers getting lost or succumbing to the elements. The search party found their tent on the slopes of Dead Mountain, but it was partially collapsed.
Yeah.
And ripped open from the inside, as if they had cut their way out, in a desperate panic.
And here's where it gets really strange. Inside the tent, investigators found their personal belongings, food, even some of the hikers' shoes. These were essential items for survival in the harsh winter conditions. So why would experienced hikers abandon them?
Right.
It's as if they fled in terror, leaving behind the very things that could have helped them survive.
So they ran out into the freezing night for some unknown reason. What happened next? Where were the bodies found?
The discovery of the bodies was a staggered and chilling process, unfolding like a macabre puzzle, really. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonyshenko, were found near the edge of a forest, about a mile from the tent.
Wow.
They were shoeless, partially dressed, and huddled around the remnants of a fire, like they were desperately trying to stay warm in those final moments.
Imagine finding your friends like that, frozen in the snow, so far from their shelter. It paints a horrifying picture of their struggle for survival.
And the mystery deepens. Remember, the tent was found on a slope.
Right.
Between the tent and the forest, investigators found 3 more bodies: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin.
Okay.
They were positioned in a line like they were trying to make their way back to the tent.
So some were trying to get back to the tent. Some were further down the mountain. What about the remaining 4 hikers?
Their bodies weren't found until 2 months later,
Oh, wow.
buried deep under the snow in a ravine, much further down the mountain than the others. This discovery added another layer of complexity and darkness to the mystery.
This is where it starts to feel like something more than just a tragic hiking accident. There has to be more to the story. What did the autopsies reveal?
The autopsies revealed a horrifying truth. The hikers hadn't simply succumbed to the cold. Some of them had injuries so severe it defied explanation.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's delve into those autopsy findings, because those injuries might hold the key to unlocking this chilling mystery. So we know these hikers didn't just freeze to death, right? Some of them had horrific injuries. What kind of injuries are we talking about?
Yeah, some did die of hypothermia, but others had injuries that, they defied simple explanations. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, for instance, he had a massive skull fracture. And then Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov, they both had severe chest fractures. The kind that would require, an incredible amount of force.
Those are devastating injuries. It sounds more like, a car accident than a hiking accident. Was there any indication of, a struggle? Or maybe an animal attack?
That's what's so baffling. There were no external wounds that corresponded to those bone fractures. It's as if they were subjected to immense pressure, but from an unknown source. Almost like something, crushed them.
Okay, now this is getting really unsettling. What else did the autopsies reveal?
Well, the injuries get even more disturbing. Lyudmila Dubinina, she was missing her tongue, eyes, and parts of her lips. And Semyon Zolotaryov, he was also missing his eyes.
This is so bizarre. What could possibly explain that? It's almost too gruesome to think about.
It's certainly a puzzle. And to add to the mystery, some of their clothing tested positive for radiation.
Radiation. What's the explanation for that? Were they near a known source of radiation? Was there something else going on in that area, that we don't know about?
That's one of the many questions that continue to haunt this case. The presence of radiation has fueled all sorts of speculation, but no definitive answers, really. So we're left grappling with these strange details, trying to piece together a coherent explanation.
All right. So we've got these bizarre injuries, signs of a panicked escape from the tent, and an environment that can turn deadly in an instant. Let's explore some of the explanations that researchers have proposed, because this is where things get really interesting. What are some of the leading theories about what happened on Dead Mountain?
Well, one of the initial theories put forward by Soviet investigators was that a compelling natural force was responsible.
Compelling natural force. Pretty vague.
Of course, that's pretty vague. Over the years, researchers have explored, various possibilities, each with its own set of strengths and weaknesses.
Let's start with one of the most common theories. An avalanche. Could they have been caught in an avalanche that caused the injuries and forced them to flee the tent?
It's a plausible scenario, but there are some inconsistencies. While an avalanche could explain, the force needed to cause some of the injuries, the terrain where the tent was found isn't particularly avalanche prone. Also, the search party, they didn't find evidence of a recent avalanche in the area.
So, if not an avalanche, what about the wind? Could those fierce winds, the katabatic winds that you mentioned earlier, have played a role?
Katabatic winds are powerful gusts that can sweep down mountainsides. With incredible force, they can disorient hikers, cause hypothermia, and even trigger panic. It's possible that the hikers were caught in a sudden katabatic wind event that caused them to flee the tent in terror.
That'd explain their panicked escape, but how would wind explain the internal injuries and the missing body parts?
That's where things get more speculative. Some researchers believe that a rare phenomenon called infrasound could have been at play.
Infrasound. Tell me more about that. What is it, and how could it have contributed to this tragedy?
Infrasound is a low-frequency sound that is below the range of human hearing. While we can't hear it, it can have psychological, even physical effects on us. It can cause feelings of unease, anxiety, and even physical discomfort. Some believe it can even induce, panic and hallucinations.
Are you saying that exposure to infrasound could have driven the hikers to behave irrationally, to flee the tent, and perhaps even cause some of the injuries?
It's a theory that some researchers have proposed. There's speculation that specific weather conditions in the mountains could have created infrasound, leading to the hikers' strange and ultimately fatal behavior.
This is fascinating, but it's also incredibly disturbing. The idea that something we can't even perceive could have such a powerful effect on us, it's truly chilling.
And it gets even more intriguing when we delve into some of the more unconventional theories surrounding the Dyatlov Pass Incident.
All right, let's go down that rabbit hole. What are some of the more out there explanations for this mystery? So we've got avalanches, we've got these crazy winds, even the possibility of this creepy infrasound. But there are even more theories, right? Explanations that go way beyond what we know. What are some of the more, unconventional ideas about what went down on Dead Mountain?
Well, when the typical explanations don't cut it, it's human nature to search for something more extraordinary. Some theories suggest military involvement, pointing to that radiation on the hikers' clothes, maybe it was secret weapons testing.
That radiation thing has been bugging me this whole time. It definitely makes things more suspicious, especially with the whole Cold War thing going on. Were there any specific military actions in the area that could explain the radiation?
Well, there's no hard proof linking the radiation to any particular military activity. It's true that the Soviets were really secretive back then, and the Cold War did fuel a lot of paranoia, but we have to be careful about jumping to conclusions based on just speculation.
Okay, so maybe not secret weapons, but what about those glowing orbs, right? Some witnesses reported seeing them in the sky around the time of the incident. Some people believe they were UFOs, evidence of aliens in the area.
Eyewitness accounts can be tricky, especially in high stress or unusual situations. The human mind tries to fill in the gaps to make sense of things it can't explain. While the idea of UFOs is cool, there's no real evidence to say they were involved in the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Okay, so we've ruled out little green men, and secret weapons. Are there any other theories trying to explain this mystery?
Some people have turned to the folklore of the indigenous Mansi people. They've lived in the Ural Mountains for centuries.
Right.
And they have these legends about mysterious creatures, spirits that live in the mountains. Could there be some truth to these stories? Something that, science can't explain?
It's tempting to think that there are forces at work beyond our understanding, especially in a case as confusing as this one. But do any of these legends actually line up with what they found at the scene?
While the Mansi legends are interesting, it's important to separate folklore from real evidence. There's no real proof that a mythical creature or some kind of supernatural force caused the hiker's death. As intriguing as those ideas might be, we have to stick with the physical evidence and what we know about the natural world.
It seems like, with every theory we look at, we hit a dead end. There's always something that doesn't quite fit, some piece of the puzzle that's missing. Is it possible that we'll just never really know what happened on Dead Mountain? That this will always be one of history's biggest mysteries?
That's what makes the Dyatlov Pass Incident so alluring and so frustrating. We can examine the evidence, we can come up with theories, but in the end we're left with this huge sense of mystery. Maybe that's what keeps drawing us back to this case, The fact that it doesn't have easy answers, it reminds us of the limits of what we know.
Even after all the research and investigations, the Dyatlov Pass Incident stays with you. It's a chilling reminder that there are still things out there in this world that we may never fully understand. The mystery lives on, it keeps fascinating us, and honestly, kind of haunting us.
It really makes you think about the power of the unknown. Even with all our scientific progress, there are parts of our world, and maybe even within ourselves, that remain a complete mystery.
It's a case that will continue to spark debate, and who knows how many more theories for years to come. And maybe that's how it should be. Some mysteries are just meant to stay unsolved, to remind us that there are forces in this world we can't control, or even fully understand.
We may never have all the answers, but that doesn't mean we should stop looking for them. The desire to understand is what pushes us forward, what makes us explore the unknown, grapple with the mysteries that are all around us.
If you're as fascinated by the unexplained as we are, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Freaky Podcaster, for more deep dives into the strange, the mysterious, and the downright bizarre. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the most compelling answers are the ones we never find.